Hello everyone, this is Jimmy and welcome to episode 17 of FTB Interactions. I want to start things off today by saying I cleaned up our rifts. Haha, I actually spawned a third rift while putting runic shielding on some of my, whatchamacallit, gadgets, baubles. They all contribute to your total runic shielding, so there's no reason not to. In fact, I should get another ring and a shirt. I don't actually know what goes in the shirt slot, and I don't know what that is. Tiara, but I should fill these slots up and give them runic shielding, but I haven't done that yet. Anyways, so because of all the rifts I generated, I decided maybe it's time to put an auxiliary venting port on my Essentia smeltery. This reduces the amount of flux it generates. I could also put a ceiling above here. The rifts spawn at the highest Y level, so if I just build a ceiling at Y255, the rifts spawn up there and won't do any harm. When they dissipate, there'll be no valid surface for them to put like the spewy thingy on that turns their paste purple. So but I don't know. We're close enough to the flux sponge that I think I'll just wait for the flux sponge. The rift was kind enough to suck up almost all the flux in the adjacent chunks before it despawned too. So this area is like the cleanest it's ever been. It's pristine until I ruin it again. Anyways, as a result, we have a lot of runic shielding. In fact, so I figured out how this hearts work. This here, that 1/2 red heart, is by 1 life. These are absorption hearts, and these are just more absorption hearts. I guess if I take some pieces off, basically there's like 7 layers of absorption hearts here. So yeah. I also did some quest cleanup. Basically I just went around and like for most of these quests, it was just like, go pick up a bucket of this stuff. I was like, alright, fine. And get your rewards. I haven't claimed this one yet because this gives us a hell shelf. Ooh, hell shelf. The hell shelves increase our enchanting power. So let's go place this on our enchanting setup and see how much higher we boost it to. So right now we are at, I think, that enchantable. I have nothing enchantable on me. Well, it's 30, 45, 60. If I place the hell shelf down, it should go up, although now I actually need an enchantable item. Give me a book. And our levels are a little bit higher. Aha! Ooh, we can now get Hell Infusion. I don't think I've gotten Hell Infusion before. But that's our only Hell Shelf for now. We'll get more later. In any event, there's that quest. And then I think I found a quest bug here. The Radon quest auto-completes. I think what it is that this quest is not being metadata sensitive, and almost all Greg Tech items, right, have that same they're like Greg Tech meta item 1. I think there's 2 of them. There's meta item 1 and meta item 2. But basically, you know, half of the Greg Tech items complete this quest. So I'm not going to grab the rewards yet because I think the Radon's having, like, just getting Radon here lets you skip some progression. Anyways, yeah, oh, the other thing I did, wow, this is taking a while before we even get started, is I went and cleared a few dungeons in the Nether. There's some neat stuff in here. A Rending Gale. This one's actually pretty fun. I haven't used it yet, so let's try it out on camera. I believe it's powered by feathers. And you see there in the lower right, it's charging. And I can fly with it as long as I have feathers. It uses feathers as fuel. I found it crashes servers a lot, so I don't know. I'll use it on and off, but I think it flies so fast that it tends to crash servers with chunk generation. Anyways, it's just really fun. I love flying. This can help us get around to like the Nether and stuff. There were a couple other neat little dungeon rewards. Let's see what else was there. Got ME crafting terminals and the Bombcraft version of the crafting terminal. But what I'm really after are these blueprints. We got 2 blueprints for Infernal Deconglomerator. And these things can just process like endstone into stuff, and netherrack and moon turf into stuff. So I don't know. They're dungeon only, so by extension they're valuable, right? Just to get rid of the fact that there's like this thing telling me I have unclaimed quest rewards, I'm gonna edit this quest. Uncheck ignore damage, and the quest will no longer be bugged and then reset completely to uncomplete the quest. And then you can turn editing mode off. And now the quest doesn't autocomplete. Huzzah. There's still some places in the quest book where I guess stuck is maybe not the wrong word, but like the tetronitromethane quest, which eventually leads into the cetane and infused nitrodiesel quests, are gated by, I guess there's like an intended route that you were supposed to take to get to tetronitromethane, and I took a different route. So it wants you to go from charcoal byproducts to wood vinegar to acetone to ethanone to tetronitromethane. But whoopsies. As a result, though, all these quests are blocked. I don't think there's any rewards on 2/3 of these, so it doesn't really matter. Well, I did half of this quest. But yeah, because there's no rewards on any of this, it's no big deal that I'm not getting it. It just means that I will never complete the quest book. Well, so with that out of the way, let's get on to working our way into space. To start, we have to build the hollow projector. It looks like this is a precision assembler, and some other stuff. Unless I run into any particularly interesting challenges, I'll probably just jump to the point where we have like the precision assembler and some of the other multi-blocks built. I imagine there's a fair bit of crafting and, machining ahead of me, but that's not particularly exciting. So I think this rending gale is my new favorite item. It's like I can just fly all around my base. It makes getting from my crafting table to where I'm working much faster. Anyways, I think I'm ready to put together our precision assembler now. So we can use our hollow projector, choose the precision assembly machine, and right click to place it down. And I'm trying to figure out where exactly I want it. Which of these is, I think this is a machine that's flexible, so the ports can be anywhere. I saw that there was a GregTech plug, so I'm going to see if it accepts GregTech energy. I assume that's what the GregTech plug does. So I make sure this is a valid block for one of these. It doesn't show up there. Well, let's try it and see what happens. Mistakes were made. Placing it down burned every single wire in this network. Yeah, everything up to my transformer. So all of my HV wires burned. Good news is I have spares, and that's something I'm never going to do again, I guess. Thanks, Advanced Rocketry. I don't know why. I guess it over-amped the wire. It must be over-amperage. But, yeah, it's wonderful. So a little explanation as to what happened. When I plug this GregTech plug directly into my Signalum cable, you see it has a energy buffer of 100,000 EU. The plug itself doesn't appear to have an amperage input limit, so it was like, all right, I have a buffer to fill up. Give me as many amps as you can to fill me. And because it's on my HV line, all of these generators were like, all right, let me give you 1 amp of power because you asked for it. So what happened was, at the point of connection, right here, where this block here used to be the plug, it drew in, 8 or 10 amps, however many generators I have, and that is more than the 4 amp limit of the wire. Because of that, the way GregTech is written, every wire burns if it's exceeded at any point, not just the wires between here and the generators. Because it's not actually a graph for, I presume, performance reasons. There's not actually a graph of, energy doesn't actually flow from point to point. It does the same, you call it like an optimization that these conduits do, where they're virtually all connected directly, even though there's actually cables in between. Anyways, my solution then is to use a battery buffer. What this will do is, for one, it'll hold a remarkable amount of energy. But the battery buffer here has a 1 amp input limit. So no matter how much energy this battery buffer is missing, it will only accept 1 amp and output 1 amp. That way, it has 1 amp in and 1 amp in, 1 amp out. That means that this wire will never see more than 1 amp at the connection point, which means we don't burn everything again. The alternative, there are energy inputs from not these VOLPS energy inputs somewhere. Power input plug. And these accept RF just fine. But I don't know, I wanted to try out the GregTech plug and it cost me, I guess, all of my Signalum cables. Anyways, having learned that, I think we can go back to building our structure. I just have to figure out where I need to anchor my preview to. I think that's where I want to anchor the preview. Yeah. Alright, I've put together our assembler and I think, whoopsies. Oh, apparently a GregTech plug is actually not valid as a... Advanced Rocketry feels like a very half-done mod. Those of you that have watched my All the Mods series will know what I'm talking about maybe a little more, but it's like you put your power, I mean, there's a power plug, but apparently it's not a valid power plug. It converts EU to RF at a 1:1 ratio, not the commonly accepted 4:1 ratio. It doesn't input, or the plug doesn't implement a amperage limit like every other GregTech block does. Meh. Alright, well I guess I have to tear this down and put it on the RF power line. Or I can just leave it here and power it through Spectre energy. I figured since we're going to power it wirelessly anyways, I can put it a little further from the crowded part of our base. So it's over here now, where there's, I guess, less stuff in general. Anyways, now it forms, I power it through a Spectre coil. It gets its power. Like, the power input plug holds 100,000 RF just like the GregTech block. I don't know why it doesn't accept it. Anyways, always turn your machines on. They don't draw any power passively. I don't think anyways. Yeah, they don't draw any power passively, so I don't know. I mean, I guess it's good to have an on-off switch, but whatever. Inputs go in these input hatch slots. Outputs come out the output hatch slot. Technically, 1 input hatch is enough. However, there are some recipes that take 5 or more inputs. So the second one is required for those recipes. There are also some recipes that, or rather, I don't think, yeah, there are no recipes that take more than 8. So in theory, if a recipe took a 9th slot, you would need the 3rd input hatch, but that doesn't appear to be necessary. Anyways, that's done. We'll next put it to use to make our guidance computer, I think, because these tracking circuits need to be made in here. In Advanced Rocketry's defense, the precision assembler is pretty darn cool. Inputs go in, and like they go through the thing, and they get I guess stamped, and then I don't know, poked, and then stamped again, and then they come out the other side, completed. And like the animation syncs up with the item reaching the end. That is pretty neat. I assume this is a block you accelerate. Haha. Apparently it makes it take more power too. Not surprisingly. By taking a very smart chicken, dipping it in concrete, and an infinitely sticky substance for conducting energy, you make a concrete chicken. Sorry, chicken. Putting our poor tortured concrete chicken to work, it lays concrete eggs. They get fluid extracted into liquid concrete, which some of it gets turned into light concrete, which is a precursor to living rock, and some of it gets sent to this mixer here, where it's used in a half dozen different recipes, not least of which geopolymer thermocrete. There's a bunch of other stuff in here too. I guess all the vanilla concretes, and oh, I guess that's it, all the vanilla concretes. Anyways, so gravel, sodium hydroxide dust, aluminum dust, and glass dust. And it's mixing. Before we go to space, or anywhere without air, we probably want a spacesuit. That's not, like, strictly speaking necessary, because you can use the airtight seal enchant on your on your armor, and it'll give you a little bit of air. But we can make this, right? Yeah, we can make airtight steel. However, I'm going to start with the spacesuit anyways. So you want to put air tanks in your chest piece. There are other modules that can go in the other pieces, but because the spacesuit is mostly just temporary, I'm not going to bother with any of them. There's stuff like that gives you better sound or sight or whatever, but we'll deal with them if it becomes necessary. So at this point, it looks like what the quest book wants us to do next is make fuel to get ready to launch. Fuel looks pretty simple. I think it's, apparently I've already made cryogenic oxygen. But yeah, you need cryothium dust mixed with oxygen to make cryogenic oxygen. And then I think it's the same except with hydrogen for cryogenic hydrogen. And then you mix them together to make rocket fuel. Easy enough. I say easy enough, however, making cryothium dust is actually going to be a bit tricky. The easiest way, getting it from the egg, isn't quite available yet because this chicken requires a trip to Euclides Prime to get the vitrolic egg for this fluid. This fluid has no crafting recipe besides from the chicken. So that leaves us the standard crafting recipe, which requires blizz powder, which requires blizz rods or a healthy supply of niter. I think it's, actually I wonder what is easier, blizz rods or niter? Probably blizz rods, right? This comes from, yeah, definitely blizz rods. So that means we can run the thermal elemental sim with water and cyclic EXP. Both of that's easy to come by, but we still need to make a alchemical matter infuser. So we've got a bit of a rabbit hole to jump down again. Time to dive in. Took a little while, but I eventually got a thermal elemental data model trained by killing a few blizzes. So now it's starting to level up and starting to generate pristines. Once it gets a couple tiers higher, it'll generate them at a much higher rate. But while that works, I'm still collecting the materials for our matter infuser. It's time to put together our alchemical matter infuser. I thought modular machines had a feature where you could right-click the preview on the controller and it would like sync the preview to the controller. But I think the problem is the version of modular machines in this pack is a little old because it needs the new version of modular machines that has this feature doesn't compat with modular diversity, the mod that lets you use like mana and stuff. So we have to put it together the old-fashioned way because this rotation that it offers by default is wrong. So basically I have to reference this, figure out what goes where, and then build it layer by layer. And it's built. So I don't think the blueprint is necessary. We can keep the blueprint, I don't know, for when we want to build another one. The fluid inputs are in the back. So one is experience, one is fluid water. And for the experience, I'm just putting an EXP drain on top of here. So if I stand here, I fill the tank, which fills the input hatch. The only kind of gotcha I had with the way I built it is that the item input hatches are located underneath these arcane pedestals, and they can only be accessed from the bottom. So why don't I hook up some item conduits? Yeah, there's one item hatch and then the other one's off on the other side. I'm gonna hook up some conduits so that I can access the, the inputs from without having to jump under our base. So with everything hooked up, it should just be a matter of putting pristine thermal matter in this chest where it should get placed into the machine. It processes for a few seconds and out comes absolutely nothing, probably because I have my conduit configured wrong. Yeah, oopsies. Both wrong channel and I didn't even turn it on. Whee! Alright, there we go, out come blizz rods. So those 5 matters were the only pristines that I had generated so far. We're only 53 iterations in, so as our pristine chance, hey look, we got another one. We got another 2. As our pristine chance goes up, we will sooner or later have, we'll be overflowing in these. Anyways, now that we have blizz rods, we can craft them into blizz powder and then mix them with snowball, redstone, and brine to make cryothium dust. I'm planning on sending all the inputs to a mixer with logistics pipes. A fluid supplier sends it brine, and a active supplier sends it redstone, blues powder, and snowballs. The blues powder will be auto-crafted from blues rods into blues powder by logistics pipes, so it's like roughly equivalent to a crafting card. However, I'm not concerned about performance with logistics pipes because the network is small, the number of items is small. If we really are concerned, we can check TPS, which is totally fine. Anyways, we should soon see that all this stuff starts flowing into here. Here comes the brine, all the fluids, and then the items should soon follow as well. There's snowballs and redstone, and blues powder, because it's being crafted, has to take a slightly longer route. And here it is. So this will mix it into cryothium dust, and then we just have to use it to chill some hydrogen and oxygen. Piggybacking off my oxygen and hydrogen production that's going on elsewhere, I'm just pumping it in with conduits. The cryothium dust produced here is being split between these two chemical reactors, and they use that to chill the fluid, and then they get sent here to be combined. So I think it's every 10 buckets of hydrogen or oxygen makes 1 bucket of cryogenic, and then 1 bucket each of the cryogenics makes 1 bucket of rocket fuel. So rocket fuel takes a fair bit of oxygen and hydrogen to make, but it's automated now. The only thing I have to do for now is manually send the pristine matters from, this output chest into this chest, and then take the products from here and put them anywhere in our network so that they can be crafted. I guess the snowballs aren't automated yet either. I have plenty. And if I wanted to automate these, how difficult would they be? Fluid solidifier? Very easy. Okay, or even... Yeah, might as well. I'll make a glacial precipitator. I keep forgetting that these quests want me to take a bucket or a cell of stuff. So let me grab a bucket of this hydrogen before it's all in use. And then a cell of rocket fuel. All right, we'll put you back and grab a cell. With rocket fuel, spacesuits, and infrastructure taken care of, all that's left to do is to, make the rocket. So that's rocket assembly machine and some of these components. Yes, this is the bare minimum for a functional rocket. To fill our spacesuit with oxygen, I have a gas charge pad here. I don't think it uses power, despite the fact that it has an RF bar, and I'm supplying oxygen to it through a logistics pipe, and it should be flowing in pretty soon. I think there's pretty high demand on our oxygen right now because it's also being used to make fuel, so we might actually not have any oxygen on hand. Let's go take a quick look. It's being made here. Yeah, there's a little bit of oxygen. I guess it's being sent through the pipes and it's a little ways away. So maybe I just wasn't patient enough. Here we go. Now there's oxygen in here. All I have to do is put on our chest piece and stand on it. And our oxygen is now filled. The chest piece I had, I put a lot of oxygen tanks in it. So it should give us a lot of oxygen. Anyways, with that, I think we're... How much is this whole total? 16 buckets? Okay. With that, I think we're ready to go assemble our rocket. I have all the components. At least I think I do. Everything else is in this chest. Let's go build it. Now, as for where to build it, in order to go to the moon, you have to launch the rocket from the void dimension. So I'm thinking let's just go build the whole thing in the void dimension. Your bare minimum rocket consists of these fuel tanks, engines, a guidance computer, and a seat. And in fact, I think we can build this rocket as is. I suspect the reason the quest book asks for seven fuel tanks is because that is the bare minimum to have enough fuel to make it into space. Yeah, we're just barely over. So anyways, this is your minimum rocket. I'm going to add one more component to it, and that's a satellite bay. A satellite bay allows the rocket to launch space stations and satellites, which is good. All right, so that is still good. I don't have to add another component, like another fuel tank or anything. Let me make sure I'm not missing anything here. Yeah, that looks good to me. So then if I hit the build button, it does its thing and turns the rocket into an actual rocket. Now it's, instead of just being a collection of blocks, it's a rocket. Then I link the linker to the rocket. I guess the linker needs power too, huh? Sure, these are easy enough to make. I'll just give it a coil of its own. That gives it power, and then I need to bring it some fuel. In my experience, it takes about 10 buckets maybe of fuel per launch. So our 29 buckets here will be enough for a couple of launches. As for how to get around after we get to the moon or wherever we're going, there's a couple ways to teleport. First of all, well, the most obvious one is to use these teleporters. However, they don't work interdimensionally, so that's actually not an option. The next option is RF Tools teleporters. However, they take just a tiny bit of titanium, and titanium is actually like 30,000 steps to make. So we're not going to do that yet. Everything else, though, we can make for matter receivers. And I love matter receivers. They make for the best teleportation network because they can be easily bound with the handheld version. The charge porters. In fact, we can even make both normal and advanced charge porters already. But alas, the option recommended in the quest book is the Celestial Gateway, which is the teleporter from Astral Sorcery. It lets you teleport between any Celestial Gateway. And they're quite reasonable to make, however they require a large multi-block and take up a fair bit of space. So I'm going to do option F, or however far down the list we are, and that is Draconic Evolution Dislocator. I got one of these from a dungeon, so I'm going to use it. They only have like 20 uses, but I'm pretty sure they can be enchanted and repaired. Maybe? Even if not, 20 uses is enough to get us to the point where, what does this do? Whatever. 20 uses is enough to get us to the point where I can set up some other teleportation system. So I'm going to go bind this on the moon, and then that'll allow us to go back to the moon without having to take the rocket. Of course, the first time we go there, we probably want to take the rocket back, just for the sake of, oopsies, that was the wrong port, wasn't it? Just for the sake of having the rocket here in the overworld. The rockets are fully reusable, with the exception of, you have to refuel it. Anyways, I think it's this one. Yeah, that takes me to the Void World. Now our rocket is fully fueled, as you can see on the left side there. Let's take a look at how much fuel that actually used. So we started at 29. It's 12 buckets, but there's 5 in here, so 7. That was exactly my guess for how much fuel it would use. That's because they are exactly 7 fuel tanks on the rocket. So I guess each fuel tank takes up a bucket. And I don't even think use all of it per launch. Anyways, I suspect that little arrow there is the, on the fuel. Or wait, no, the arrow's on the velocity gauge. Never mind, I don't know how much fuel it'll use to launch. Anyways, open up the UI for this. The hotkey is C by default, although C does one of those. So you have to rebind it to something else. Then open the guidance computer and put your Planet ID chip in there. Then close the UI by hitting escape. Then hit your keybind again to open the UI again, because this is advanced rocketry. We have to be advanced here. Anyways, click select destination, pick Luna, select. Now press spacebar to take off to Luna. We don't want to do that yet. We don't have our spacesuit on. So let's grab our spacesuit, put that on. At some point, again, I'll enchant our armor with airtight seal so that we can go without our spacesuit. You can see we still have plenty of runic shielding bars from our baubles, so we'll be significantly weaker while wearing the spacesuit. But for now, our trip to Luna is temporary. We'll want to bring with us a fueling station, a linker to link the fueling station with the rocket again. Make sure we have something to power the fueling station with, and some fuel. And with that, and our teleporter to bind. With that, I think we're ready to launch. Let me give everything a once over again, make sure I don't forget something important. Alright, I think we're good. So, space to take off. I have no clue what types of mobs we're going to see on the moon. I'm sure it'll be unpleasant, and hopefully we don't die there, because that'll make things very awkward. Anyways, once we go into space, we'll also trigger the tougher mobs to spawn on the overworld, but we've already set up our peace candles and whatever to make it so that doesn't cause us any problems. This launch takes, I don't know, about a minute maybe, so not really anything to see. That's the moon apparently. We're going there. Now I'll see you once we're on our way down to the moon, I guess. On my way up, I realized, you know what would have been really smart? If I made a rocket that had enough fuel to go there and get back without having to refuel. I think all that means is I have to add a few more fuel tanks, perhaps another booster, and yeah, that would have saved us some trouble. Although maybe this rocket can. It's really close. Right? We're like, is that over? That's totally over half fuel, right? So maybe this rocket does make it there and back. Huh. Anyways, we are now descending on the moon. Terrain's generating, so we're going to rubber band up to Y1000 for probably about a minute. Or at least I'm going to rubber band for a minute. You will see us descending. Alright, we're on our way down. The terrain should be loading in any second now. There's apparently a Crimson Praetor close enough that I get a boss bar. So I don't know about that. That concerns me a little bit. But we're on our way down. Once we touch down, I'm going to put this peace candle down just so that hopefully we don't get killed here on the moon. Alright, so let's set a bookmark. As I mentioned, this thing now tells us that basically the enemies, or the space enemies are going to start spawning in the overworld now. Let's take a look around. What are some of these things? Aluminum dust. Ooh, I wonder, do they mark veins underneath here? Let's check with our scanner. I'll put you back in ores mode, and what's down here? Oh yeah, there's something down there. Anyways, I'm gonna bind our dislocator here. I think it's a shift right click, right? So bind you here, and then I can rename this if I like, which I will at some point. But to go back, you think that's enough fuel? That looks like enough fuel. Let's take the chance. You get back in here, select destination, take us to Terra, which is the overworld, quote unquote. Basically, it's dimension 0 in the game mechanically, and that is where you spawned. So that's the void world. Anyways, I think we've done everything we need to, right? That involves a rocket, right? So off we go. Now, speaking strictly from a physics standpoint, the trip from the moon to back to the, whatever planet should take a lot less fuel than the other way around, because the moons have a much smaller gravity well, right? You need a lot less delta V to get back to your planet. Technically, you get aerobraking effects around, in the atmosphere that you don't get on the moon, because we did do a propulsive landing. So I wonder, is that reflected when we have more than, it should take significantly less fuel to get back, but at a glance, it looks like it will take the majority of our remaining fuel to get back. Look, as long as we make it back in one piece, I'm not going to complain. The rocket magically knows where to land, it'll land where it took off from. I'm like 80% sure of that. I'll be very sad if it falls into the void, because then I have to remake it. Oh no, it did use significantly less fuel to get back. Okay. I like it. Anyways, we're on our way down, and according to the minimap, we are not about to fall into the void. Phew. And we're back with fuel to spare. So, turns out I didn't need to bring fuel with me. I guess I'll put the extra fuel back. It'll get used eventually, don't worry. Because we landed back where we came from, I'm pretty sure it automatically relinks with the fuel loader. That does not appear to be the case. So I guess I have to manually relink the fuel loader to the rocket. Causes it to get fueled again. And it'll be ready for our next launch to wherever we go. Back on the overworld here, let's craft our airtight seal enchants so that we can wear our actual armor and be able to do things like see. Seeing is a big deal. Our anvil here has seen better days. Let's see if it'll make it through 4 more enchants. So, airtight seal, airtight seal, airtight seal, and airtight seal. Alright, that means we no longer need this spacesuit, although our armor does not come with much oxygen tank capacity. So, standing on this to charge. It's going to give me the rest of my oxygen? No? Is that all I get? I don't actually know how long that bar lasts for. Normally there's a way to like add more oxygen capacity in one of the machines, one of the advanced rocketry machines, but that machine seems to be disabled. So I don't know if there's any way to add like a tank to our armor. Oh wait, we have more capacity now. I guess I just had to stand on it longer. Nope, not on that piece of armor. I want to see, can I add more to you? No, I cannot. Although it did take a long time to charge. Maybe the configs I just set such that armor has a lot of capacity on it. Let me check. I did some searching in the configs, I couldn't find anything regarding it, so I'm not sure. Let's just teleport to the moon and see how long our air lasts. So we get 20 uses out of this before... That's awkward. I didn't expect that it would... This probably does like a heart of damage to you, so as a safety feature, it won't let you use it if you're low on health. Well then... I guess we have to launch a rocket back to the moon. I should come up with some other teleportation method. Drat. You know, nah. Maybe I can either build the Celestial Gateway, or I can just bite the bullet and make the RF-12's teleporter, which involves making titanium. How about, let's wrap things up here for today. We'll come back tomorrow, make titanium, and then head to the moon and do moon things. Because apparently I'm too low on health to use this charged porter, even though I have all these absorption hearts. That's a shame. Anyways, I do hope you enjoyed today's episode, and I hope to see you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.